You know, it's not often you see India and Bangladesh, two countries that don't always see eye to eye, suddenly on the same page. But that's exactly what we're seeing right now, and it's all because of some pushback against how the New York Times has been covering them.
Yeah, and it's pretty significant when you consider that it's not like a little disagreement or anything. We're talking full on challenging the accuracy of what the NYT is reporting. Makes you wonder what's going on with international news these days.
We should probably get into the specifics, right?
Mhm.
The NYT published a piece, I think it was late March, about Bangladesh, and essentially saying that is it loves it extremism is making a comeback there. And then almost at the same time, they put out another article claiming that India's HAL, their big aerospace company, may be handed over sensitive technology to Russia, which could be breaking all sorts of international rules.
Yeah, some pretty hefty claims. Let's unpack the Bangladesh one first. The New York Times piece, I mean, it really seemed to be painting this picture of like a rapid rise of hardline Islamists gaining influence. They pointed to things like, I think it was bans on girls playing soccer and the release of someone accused of some really bad stuff. It kind of felt like they were saying Bangladesh is changing drastically and not in a good way.
And Bangladesh didn't just sit back and take it. Shafiq Kalam, he's Muhammad Yunus's press secretary, basically went straight out and said the NYT's report was so one-sided. He said it just completely oversimplifies, even misrepresents what's happening in Bangladesh politically and socially.
And, the way he explained it was really interesting. He said it's like finding a few bad apples in a bunch and then deciding that the whole orchard is rotten. Like, just because there are a few incidents doesn't mean the whole country is going down the tubes. And he really pushed back on the idea that Bangladesh hasn't made progress.
Right, right. So then there's the India report, and that one, I mean, that's a big deal, saying that HAL, this major Indian company, basically did something shady with technology that could even affect global security.
Oh, absolutely. That kind of accusation could have huge ripple effects, especially when you're talking about defense collaborations and like a country's reputation on the world stage. So it's no surprise that India had something to say about it.
Yeah, and they said it loud and clear. India's Ministry of External Affairs basically said, nope, not true. They called the NYT report factually incorrect and misleading, flat out. They insisted that HAL follows all the international rules to the letter, especially when it comes to this kind of sensitive technology.
And here's where it gets even more interesting. The NYT article itself actually admits that there's no hard proof that this British tech actually ended up in Russia. So it seems like their whole accusation was based on like assumptions and suspicions, not actual evidence. That really raises questions about how they're doing their reporting, especially when it comes to stuff this sensitive and international.
Okay, so we've got two countries, India and Bangladesh. They don't always agree on things, but both of them are basically saying the New York Times got it wrong. That's not something you see every day.
Yeah.
What do you think this tells us about international reporting in general?
Well, I think it shows just how hard it is to accurately cover regions that are, complex and constantly changing. There's always a temptation to oversimplify things or go for the more sensational story, even if it means missing some of the nuances.
And for folks like me, and I'm sure many of our listeners too, who are trying to stay informed, it's a good reminder that just because something is in a well-known newspaper doesn't mean it's the whole story.
Yeah, you always have to think about where the information is coming from, what their angle might be, and if maybe there are other perspectives out there that could give you a more complete picture. I mean, India and Bangladesh both pushing back like this, it makes you really think about the narratives we're being presented with, even from supposedly reliable sources.
So to kind of wrap this all up, both India and Bangladesh are basically saying no way to these New York Times reports, and they're questioning how accurate and unbiased the coverage really is. It definitely makes you wonder, especially in a world with so much information flying around, how can we tell what's really going on? How do you figure out which reports are factually incorrect and which are actually giving you the straight story? It's a tough question, especially when you have these big global narratives clashing with what these countries are saying.
Definitely something to keep in mind as you read the news, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And that's it for our deep dive today. Thanks for joining us.